That dormant part of Jack Bauer had been right to wake up. The first reports came in at 9:47 a.m., fragmentary and confused. A building collapse in downtown Los Angeles, multiple casualties, rescue workers on scene. Then, within minutes, the correction. Not a collapse. An explosion. Federal building. Dozens dead. Maybe more. Jack was in the CTU Situation Room when Chloe O'Brien's voice cut through the ambient noise of ringing phones and urgent conversations. Her face, displayed on the main monitor from her remote station, was the color of old paper. "We're getting feeds from LAPD in the fire department now," she said, her fingers flying across her keyboard with mechanical precision. "Jack, the initial blast took out the entire east wing, ground floor to the 3rd level. They're still pulling bodies from the rubble." He didn't respond immediately. Jack had learned long ago that silence in moments like this was often more useful than words. He watched the video feeds as they populated the screens, the jagged mouth of destruction where a building used to be, the dust still settling like a terrible snow, the organized chaos of emergency responders working in the wreckage. Firefighters in their heavy gear moved through the debris with careful urgency. A woman's shoe lay on the sidewalk, pristine and alone. Jack looked away. "How many?" he asked. "Initial estimates put the death toll between 40 and 60, Chloe said. "But the numbers keep changing. Some people are still trapped. Others are being pulled out alive, but barely. The medical examiner's office is setting up a temporary morgue. 40 to 60 people. Jack had seen worse. He'd done worse. That was the thing nobody wanted to admit about people like him, that after a certain point, the numbers stopped mattering the same way. One death was a tragedy. 100 deaths was a statistic. But it wasn't the deaths that mattered right now. It was what they meant. "Get me everything from the scene," Jack said. "Security footage, witness statements, the works. And I want the building's visitor logs for the past week. Everyone who came in, everyone who went out." "Already on it," Chloe replied. "But Jack, there's something else. We found a message, spray-painted on the loading dock wall, on the building's south side." The LAPD almost missed it because it was partially obscured by the blast debris. Jack felt something shift in his chest. What did it say? "It says, 'This is only the beginning. The reckoning has started. More will follow.'" The words hung in the air like a threat. Jack's jaw tightened. This wasn't random. This wasn't some lone lunatic with a grudge. This was a statement, a declaration of intent. And the specificity of it, the message left at the scene, suggested someone who wanted credit, someone who wanted attention, someone who was planning to do it again. "Get me on a secure line with the director," Jack said, already moving toward the exit. "I'm heading to the scene. And Chloe, flag that message for linguistic analysis. I want to know everything about whoever wrote it. Education level, regional dialect, psychological profile, everything." "You think this is terrorism?" Chloe asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "I think," Jack said, pausing at the door, "that someone just declared war on the federal government, and the fact that they left a message means they want us to know this isn't over, which means they've already planned the next move. We need to find them before they execute it." The drive downtown took Jack through streets that had transformed into something out of a disaster film. News helicopters circled overhead. Traffic was snarled as people tried to evacuate the area or, perversely, tried to get closer to see what had happened. Jack drove with one hand on the wheel and the other holding a secure phone to his ear, listening to the director brief him on what little they knew. The federal building housed offices for the Bureau of Land Management, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and a regional office of the FBI. On any given day, hundreds of people worked there. Hundreds of people whose families were right now receiving the worst phone calls of their lives. "We're coordinating with the FBI's Los Angeles field office," the director said, his voice tight with controlled fury. "They're treating it as a potential terrorism case, which means we're officially in the loop. Jack, I need you to work this with them. Find out who did this and why." "There's a mole in CTU," Jack said flatly. "Someone who's been feeding information to the wrong people. I don't know who yet, but they exist. Assume any information we share internally is compromised." There was a long pause. "You're certain?" "I'm certain. Which means we need to be careful about what we discuss over open channels, and we need to verify everything coming through our own intelligence apparatus. If someone wanted to hit a federal building and make sure they got maximum casualties, they'd need to know the layout, the security protocols, the times when the building would be most populated." Jack pulled up to the police cordon a block away from the building and parked. The smell hit him first. Smoke and dust and something else underneath. Something organic and terrible that he'd learned to recognize over the years. "I'm at the scene now," he said. "I'll call you back." He ended the call and stepped out of the car into a landscape that looked like the aftermath of a war. The federal building's east wing was simply gone, replaced by a vertical canyon of destruction. The adjacent buildings bore the scars of the blast, windows blown out, facades scarred and blackened. Rescue workers moved through the rubble like ants in a destroyed hill, methodical and grim. Jack walked toward the scene, his credentials getting him past the police line. An LAPD detective intercepted him, a woman in her 50s with hard eyes and a harder expression. "Your TTU?" she asked. "Jack Bauer. I need to see the message." She led him to the loading dock on the south side of the building. The blast had torn away much of the surrounding structure, but the wall where the message had been spray-painted was still standing. The words were there in red paint, stark and simple against the concrete. "This is only the beginning. The reckoning has started. More will follow." Jack studied it for a long moment, photographing it in his mind. The handwriting was careful, deliberate, not the work of someone in a panic, not the work of someone acting on impulse. This was planned, executed, and the message itself, the language, the phrasing, suggested someone educated, someone with a message to deliver. "When did you find this?" he asked. "About an hour ago," the detective replied. "One of the firefighters spotted it while they were searching for survivors. We photographed it, but we haven't touched it. Forensics is on the way." Jack nodded. "I need to see the blast site itself, the point of origin." The detective led him deeper into the wreckage. As they picked their way through the debris, Jack's mind was already working, already sorting through possibilities. A bomb this sophisticated required expertise. It required planning. It required a network of people. People to acquire the materials, people to assemble the device, people to plant it and execute the attack. And someone, somewhere in that network, had a connection to CTU. Someone who would know Jack was coming. Someone who would try to stop him. The clock was ticking. He could feel it now, that pressure of time running out. The attack had happened. The message had been left. And according to that message, this was only the beginning. More would follow. Jack needed to find out what, and he needed to do it before the next body count started climbing.